Give me my games. Give me my games. Watch your games. Watch your games, alright? Give me my games. There you go. What? No!
Hello. Welcome to Polerotica, the loneliest echo chamber in the entire internet. We are going to be talking about some serious topics today, so we're going to tone it down a little bit and get into, I guess, whatever we call this and the world that we're living in, making sure everything is recording. Yes? Okay, let's jump into it. So, Black Lives Matter still matters, obviously. We're just gonna jump right into the topic. So, obviously, we're still dealing with a lot of the same issues. These cases keep coming, and we're going to keep breaking things as they keep coming. So, stop killing us. It's very simple. And when I say us, I mean just humans and each other in general. Just stop killing us, and you will see peace. Because when we say no justice, no peace, that's not just a passing phrase that we on the left use to help ourselves feel better. We actually mean it. It's not like when you say, lest we forget, and then throw your poppy in the trash the day later, or never forget 9/11 as you pour all of your shampoos into little 2-ounce travel bottles so, you can protect the whole world against all the terrorism, because it's the shampoo, really. It's all of the TSA and the bureaucracy that we've come to after 9/11 that we're remembering, instead of the sentiment of the lives lost. Because if it's about lives mattering, we would have more of a conscious conversation about how more people died from COVID than ever of 9/11, and we're not lest we forgetting them, but I digress. That's a completely different topic of what we're talking about today. So, obviously, we're going to move into the serious part. Reports suggest that up to 200 members of the National Guard will be deployed on Monday, and I guess that Monday has came and gone. I'm not too sure yet when this was written, because I write my news very staggeredly throughout the week. So, in the wake of these protests, to keep the civil unrest to a dull, palatable roar, of course, they're going to make sure that they put as many police officers on standby as possible. And mind you, when I was writing this was actually before all of the hullabaloo that you're probably anticipating that we're going to be talking about with that shooting that happened at the protests. So we're talking currently, this is the timeline that I was writing probably earlier in the week before this had happened, and the shooting has caused a lot of changes in how we're talking about this. So mind you, I wrote this a few days ago. A force, the police, they just can't seem to get it into their heads to learn how to use handcuffs or a taser properly. Police tried to use a taser to stun Jacob Blake, which did not work, obviously, because they were I imagine using it improperly, because when you tase someone and they think they're going to die, there's a high chance that the person isn't going to react in the textbook manner that they may have been trained for in the police academy. So, in which case, they decided to just shoot him several times in the back. So, then Blake walked to the front of his car, which had his seemingly 4 or 6 children in it. Don't quote me on this. I can't recall off the top of my head how many children were in the van, but there were children in the van, and they just opened fire on this man, and so that's why we are protesting yet again. And I feel like a broken record saying the same things as maybe I said in my previous, George Floyd video, that you're going to see a lot of comments online about what this man did wrong in the face of police officers. But when, like I said before, just a few moments ago, when you are facing a lot of unrest, like maybe the thought that you are going to die, you might react in ways that are seemingly scary, seemingly ways that maybe the police should be properly trained to handle. If you're going to tase someone and you're going to apprehend them, maybe anticipate their strange reactions and their varying reactions, because if someone just shot me a bunch of times, I'd be upset. Sorry. So, civil rights lawyers have all kind of come together, but Ben Crump has announced that he is going to be representing Mr. Blake's family in this case, and so most of the statements are going to be coming from Mr. Ben Crump. In a statement released on Twitter, he said that the 29-year-old father of 3 was helping to de-escalate a domestic incident. This corroborated with witnesses on the scene, as well as 2 women who are actually the reason that the police were called, also have a lot to say about the situation, many of which has to do with blaming each other, which is actually really sad, because you shouldn't be blaming each other for this situation. The police should have come on scene and maybe anticipated that the black man on site wasn't the problem and didn't need to be tased and shot. But maybe the women should be talked to, and maybe if they had done that and done their job and done what we pay them so much money to do, this wouldn't have happened. And miraculously, thank God, Jacob has survived, so he's going to be able to tell us the full story, as if the full story would even change anything. They still just open fire on a random guy for, like, no reason. Okay, so, I digress. Though conveniently not documented in the 911 call that he was not actually the threat in this situation, so the police didn't actually, let's say they didn't know what was going on, and my journalistic integrity needs to say that the police didn't actually know that he wasn't involved with the situation, but they were really, 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 really quick to assume that he was. So quick, in fact, that almost all of the witnesses on scene have the exact same story, where the police came and they chased him into the car and shot him, like, immediately. It's also on video, mind you. There is a high circumstance any human in the US could be armed. I mean, it's in the Constitution. But you're also armed as a police officer, so you gotta kind of take that responsibility upon yourself that you might be an imposing force and might be scary to some people. A conversation definitely needs to be had about the threat assessment in a reality where every other human other than them may also possess a gun. A possession that does not actually immediately mean that they're a danger. In some neighborhoods, there is an assumption of guilt or threat, regardless of, your right to bear said firearms and or even just defend yourself in normal situations, like just like thrashing around and when you're being, strangled or shot. God, it's so strange. You see so many Facebook comments from these weird old white men that are like, oh, this is what I would have done in this situation. They're commenting like timestamps of like, oh, this is exactly where they went wrong. Not comprehending that when a human is under duress like this, humans act strangely, much like how animals do when you hunt them. I'm sure a lot of these like white guys are very familiar with that. So the fight or flight response kind of kicks in and our animal instincts come out and we act ways that are visually like a little erratic. I'm sure if someone tased or shot me, I would be yelling, probably. There's a high chance that I would be yelling, but I digress. Such silly conversations. God. So if you're telling me, one more tangent before I get back into the news. So you're telling me if I tased you right now, like nothing would happen? Okay. All right. Let's put that to the test. Even Johnny Knoxville was tased, and he was tased right in the balls, and he had a pretty harsh reaction. So, mind you, childhood memories of Jackass are coming to mind whenever I think of tasers, and it's very upsetting that the realistic use of a taser is to subdue crime, but I don't know, you never really see it used that way in these kinds of instances. It's nice that they at least tried to use other avenues, but were very, very quick to continue to shoot. And even even in cases where the person is running away or is even a threat, like, you only need to shoot someone one time to subdue them, unless this guy is some sort of superhuman. Of course, I highly doubt that. There's always this weird assumption of guilt or threat in regards to like any situation. And that comes from the fact that people are armed, and cops come to any situation under the circumstances that any human could be armed. That's what's drilled into their head. Of course, I imagine this man probably wasn't. I don't know the details on that, but that is in their headspace. They're like, oh my gosh, this guy is gonna shoot me. So it's ridiculous that there is this disparity of justice so much that it makes people want to break windows and burn things. And that's because we keep running into this exact same situation over and over again. Yes, it's bad that people break things, but I personally think it's worse that we're grown so used to the police just opening fire on individuals instead of like arresting them. And maybe, okay, so if cops just like murdered suspects that had very crucial information to cases or things like that. Like, don't you think that would be a problem for justice? Just saying, like, if the suspect had very pertinent information to like the national security of the entire world, and they just like shoot him right away. No, that's like why the military keeps and tortures terrorists. It's ridiculous. Okay, so Jacob was shot so fast that witnesses on the scene say that they heard possibly 7 shots discharged within, like, I don't even know how many seconds. I am not a doctor, but oftentimes it only requires 1 shot to die. And like we mentioned before, I highly doubt that this man was some sort of homunculus. Since Jacob is in critical condition, this lends to the suspicion that the lethal force deployed in the case of George Floyd was very much unjustified and deliberate, because they shot him 7 times and he survived. But, you know, when you strangle someone to death, there's only really... I hate to be kind of like playful with the language when we're talking about the death of a human being, but you know, when you strangle somebody to death, or like strangle someone at all, there's a high chance that they're going to die. But at least when it comes to like firearms, there is a chance that you're not going to die. There's a chance that if you shoot low enough that the people might not you know, just die right away. But in this case, he was shot in the back at least 7 times, so I'm not sure what they were trying to do. It's not like they're shooting the legs or anything. And in George Floyd's case, it's not like they were, you know, having their hands on other parts of his body. You know, they were deliberately strangling him, which is something that these police departments are trained to do, which is why we're so mad about it and why we're going to continue to be mad about it, because no justice, no peace. How many times do we have to say it? In many instances where the death of a police suspect it triggers civil unrest. The optics leading to their death and the part that the police play in this violence has a lot to do with what happens next in these instances. And we've seen what's happened next, because I wrote this wondering what could possibly happen next, and here we are. Obviously, we knew what was going to happen next. Well, you didn't know it was going to get this weird, but it always gets this weird because this is America. Though someone is in the sanctuary of their Caucasian skin behind a computer screen, they will begin to rant and ramble about, if he had just done this or communicated that, Jacob would still be walking or still be alive, presumably, because I wrote this at the time when he was still in critical condition, but it looks like he is going to survive, which is a miracle. He is in critical condition, or continues to be, and probably will not walk again, which is devastating for him and his family. But like I said, it's also a genuine miracle that he didn't die, because, oh my god, one more freaking person dies because of this, I'm gonna lose it. He has maybe a full story to tell. The ambiguous full story, however, will not change the worldwide unrest and the, culmination of negative emotion that needs to be addressed in many of these cases. The fact that he's survived doesn't make all of that go away, and like, oh yes, we can all hold hands with the police and say, oh, thank you for shooting us and not killing us. We'd prefer that not to be an avenue that they express at all. Or when they do express it, we'd hope that it would be expressed in less numerable ways. Like I said a million times, you only need to shoot someone once. I feel like I'm a crazy person for saying that. If I happened to be arrested at this exact moment in time, do you expect me to, or do you even, like, comprehend how much bad behavior it would take for them to shoot me? Probably a lot. Apparently a lot more than just leaving the scene of two girls fighting and struggling when I'm arrested for doing nothing at all. Of course, if you know those gamers that get swatted, if that just happened to me at this exact moment right now, I would probably freak out and be upset about it, just like anyone else would be. But, you know, I have this luxury of being small and looking like I'm white, except for when the brain. It's such a bizarre world that the people that are leaving these comments and saying, oh, what they would do in these situations live in the luxury of their skin color that doesn't have all these connotations of thread and arms and, oh, God. Am I crazy? I'm not crazy. Often you will see a play-by-play commentary from some suburban dad about the exact moment the murder victim went wrong and how he deserved his fate at this exact moment in time, regardless of what he's done. Like, the guy could be, like, saving a puppy from a burning building, and he could be, like, running away, and then the police, like, have a quick misunderstanding, and they're like, oh, no, and he's, like, rustling away from the cops to, like, save the puppy, and then the comments would be like, oh, see, like, 1 minute, 30 seconds in, that's exactly where he went wrong. He should have just, like, killed the puppy and obeyed the cops. Because the cops are our overlords and we have to obey everything they do, even when they're murdering us. Even when they're murdering us. Even when they're murdering us, we have to bow down and lick their boots. Lick their boots. Okay. I don't want to lick anyone's boots. Coronavirus, okay? These bootlickers, they lick boots and they don't wear masks, and they're the reason why this is happening. Sorry to put such a light note on such a dark situation, but it's just a lot more positive, and I feel like more vibrant to talk about this than we did about the George Floyd instance, because this man survived and he's not dead at this exact moment in time. So we can at least rejoice and say that they didn't get another one of us, and they're going to get more of us, okay? I can't say they're not going to, but the more that they get of us, the more angrier we will continue to be. And so you might wonder, why hasn't this gone away? Why does this keep getting worse? And it's because the police have not reformed their actions at all. And when we're protesting about them, they come at us with tear gas and whatnot. And you could argue that it's because they're burning things or because they're painting on walls. But if you look at the instances where people aren't burning anything and they aren't painting on anything and they still get pepper sprayed in the face, you have the question in your mind, what is going through those cops' heads? Like, optically, stop it. Like, we get it. You want a, fascist suppression of the people. You want to shut them up and you want to feel like you're the big guy in the room. I guess that's what they've been trained to do. But each one of those individuals, it's like pepper spraying teenagers and like people in wheelchairs. Why? Why are you doing that? You're not defending anything of substance or value other than I feel silly just going on this tangent. You understand what I'm talking about. You're listening this far in. Somehow, this becomes a conversation about what we as human beings need to do to require that our lives matter in these moments. So what steps we need to take, or what words we need to use, or actions or body language to communicate to the police that we are not a threat and our lives matter. That's the issue. That's what we're talking about. So, on the other hand, we have Karens fretting about property damage. Don't worry, Karen. No one's going to be burning your business down because you're not actually a business owner. That's an MLM. And Antifa is not going to be burning any of your essential oils because they're extremely flammable and extremely valuable, and we're going to be using them for our holistic needs instead of selling them on your weird Facebook black market MLM bullshit. Sorry. No one's coming to burn your business down, Karen. You don't have a business. I guess... Okay, so Antifa, I guess you or me, it's weird saying that because we're not crazy people that are like burning the world down because we sympathize with anti-fascists. So, you and I, being anti-fascists, organizers, or maybe even just commentators, people that just have always been this way, because Antifa is actually a very old movement that dates back all the way to like the 1930s in Germany, which was an anti-fascist movement that was quickly snuffed out by the fascists. So aligning ourselves with those people and with that rhetoric isn't really that crazy or radical, because being anti-fascist isn't a bad thing. But because we are organizers who wear black clothes and swear, we are super scary, and the media just thinks that there is no bigger fish to fry other than these teenagers who wear black t-shirts, ride skateboards, and spray paint things. Like, oh my gosh, we gotta stop the whole world for them, instead of the literal tyrannical police that are murdering people, or at least attempting to, and not succeeding in this case. The police need to stop using this exponential force in this matter. Even from an optical perspective, there should be some sort of sanity here. But like I said before, I'm pretty sure they want this. This is the optics that they want. If they wanted civility, the police would pull back. Okay. And sing Kumbaya and give everyone some hugs and be like, no, it's fine. We're actually gonna stop killing people. That's what we're gonna do. We're gonna stop doing that, and we're sorry. But no, they're doing the exact opposite because they want to provoke us for something. And those crazy other side people, the people that have perpetuated a lot of the violence that we're going to be talking about soon, are bad. And they want this. They want this unrest, and the police are helping serve it. Here is a quote. Tonight, Jacob Blake was shot in the back several times, multiple times, in broad daylight. Evers said in a statement, I don't know who this quote is from. It will be in the description, though. While we don't have all of the details yet, what we know for certain is that he is not the first black man or person to have been shot or injured mercilessly killed at the hands of an individual in law enforcement. End quote. So following the shooting, police said officers administered aid before the injured man was flown to the hospital in Milwaukee. The man they injured by shooting him multiple times. Jacob Blake. This man, I wonder what will happen if I shoot this man several times in the chest or in the back. I might have to put him in the hospital now. Ooh, I wonder what will happen. Sorry, it just seems silly. Of course, they're going to administer help. I mean, the quotes and the way they put that in the article is like, oh, well, at least they helped him. I mean, it's the same man they shot. So the Kenosha Police Department requested that the scene be shifted to the Kenosha County Sheriff's Department in Wisconsin. It said in a official statement, Crump said that Blake's relatives reached out to this social activist lawyer, Mr. Crump, in regard to this incident, because he is very good at handling these kinds of like public relation issues. It just feels really silly to have to keep talking about this as if like we're angry for a very justifiable reason. So Blake's 3 young sons were inside the vehicle when their dad was shot. And this is increasingly distressing. And this is the facts of the matter, because I'm reading this directly from the article. This shooting has sparked outrage because of the lack of pre-investigation that we depend on fully funded police forces to have. In many cases, force is deployed in incorrect instances on the incorrect party. Something that could be completely avoided if the fully funded police department could assess the situation properly, used fully trained officers in an instance where maybe they could de-escalate a situation. That's why we're calling for defunding the police, not because we think, oh, the police are bad, we should get rid of them. No, I mean, if they're not using their funding properly, we should put it towards other things. So we're not just going to take the money when we defund the police. We put it into other things. Where do you think that money goes? It just doesn't get spent. We just give it to Antifa. So that's probably what they think. I wish that they would just like randomly give us money. That'd be great. Suppose they can deploy the National Guard to a city to fight this unrest. Why was it too much to ask if maybe the cases like this could be handled more delicately? It does not make much sense to, like, optically to just keep doing this resistance to the protesters. I mean, on their side, they don't want to, I guess, give in to our demands, but our demands are quite simple. Stop killing us. And they're like, no. Pepper spray. It does not make my peers part of some conspiracy to destroy the exact fabric of the United States police force. This is a movement that predates like the QAnon and the Ben Shapiro and the Boogaloo people. This movement completely predates all of that nonsense. Those people were created as an antithesis to us, or as an opposition to us, to suppress our good ideas of not wanting to be murdered and suppressed. I hate to break it to you, but if you are still listening and you're still convinced that Antifa and Black Lives Matter are some sort of terrorist organization, but won't even consider the global impact that U.S. exceptionalism and military occupation has done on a variety of countries, let alone our own, I have some bad news for you. Some really bad news, and it's going to hit you a little bit weird. Everything that you believe in is wrong and is rooted in the opposite or the opposition to me and everything that I believe in. Sure, you could say that that's an opinion, and yes, it is. That's my opinion. I think you're wrong. It makes sense that what I do and say is scary to you, or maybe the whole idea of armed people with skateboards and spray paint trying to stick it to the man, that scares you and it makes you confused and angry. It may surprise many of you listening that I don't openly condemn activists who decide to act out in a way that will inevitably destroy property or maybe spray paint on things. I won't re-explain it. Just re-watch my video series on Candace Owens versus Black Lives Matter, and if you still have some questions about, I guess, our motives in this movement, I'm not your babysitter. This is not like something where I'm going to hold your hand and explain every single thing and why we do it. This is just my place. I'm sharing my opinions. And this is a one-sided dialogue, and you chose to attend. And there's going to be many people that are still going to be like, oh, but Black Lives Matter is this or that, or you're completely misinformed, and I'm not going to sit here and hold your hand and tell you why, because it's all right. You disagree with me. I'm not changing my mind, okay? So move it along. Black Lives Matter is not a terrorist organization. To qualify as such, you would require some sort of power. And Antifa, as well, isn't an organized group, so it also is not a terrorist organization, because we don't have a group. We're not a monolith or a thing that you, like, sign up for. Like, oh, yeah, I didn't sign up for my membership to the Antifa. I lost my t-shirt privileges. No, okay, the belief of just being anti-fascist. Like, I don't like fascists. Oh, big whoop. There we go. Now I'm a domestic terrorist? Okay, thanks, Trump. Good on you. I don't know what that makes your base, but it probably, like, if that's the qualifier, Jesus Louises, like, better lock up, like, everybody listening or everybody watching. I don't know. It just seems silly. If you read up about the ideas of what we're talking about instead of just, like, the Wikipedia article of Antifa, if you just read that, you'd be like, oh, geez, like, that sounds like some sort of organized thing. Have not met. I've been on the left a long time. A lot before maybe even this language was being used. And we're very disorganized, okay? Hate to break it to you. We're not like you. The idea that you are parroting... Oh, hit my microphone. Parroting some sort of talking point as disingenuous as this is like, oh, Black Lives Matter is some sort of hate group. means one thing and one thing only. You, under any circumstances, will not admit that you could be wrong about something. Because if that's the parroted talking point that you were going to comment here, or you're going to talk about, or you're just going to put on Facebook, or put on the news, I got some, like, really bad news for you. Like, we're not going to change our minds, because you're just flat wrong. There are times where it is okay to admit that you're wrong in the bias and in the bias of authority, or maybe you just like the government, or you like really like the government but pretend you're anti-government. It makes sense to have a respect for the police and law and order, because in the eyes of pop culture and how we see the world of police, it has been a voice for the weak and protected and served the deserving classes. And, of course, benefits many of you have seen and are very tangible to you. So it makes sense why on your face when you hear people like me saying, oh, all cops are bad, or, oh, defund the police, like your first knee-jerk reaction is to say, oh, but my uncle is a police officer and he's very nice. Of course, he's very nice to you and to your family members, or maybe he is a perfectly good police officer who's just trying to do his job. That doesn't make the bad cops go away, okay? So, a good guy with a gun doesn't make the bad guy with a gun go away. The benefits to policing, many of you have seen, find it very hard to digest that many of the groups on my side of the fence harbor a lot of, they don't like you. They don't like what you have to say, and we don't like your establishment. This establishment harbors unbridled corruption in favor of you, so it makes sense why you might like it. Not a mind-blowing concept there. It is easier for you to believe that we are bad actors, or that we're the enemy causing a muck for your perfect little world, than to believe that everything that you've ever been taught is wrong, okay? I admit that. It's easier for you to believe that I'm the enemy, and I guess I'll just continue to play the enemy, and I'll be the best goddamn enemy that you have ever faced. I won't sit here and hammer the point home over and over and over again if you are already against human lives mattering. We are here, and if you think we are wrong, you want to fight about it? There is not one thing to dispute when it comes to Black Lives Matter. When there is no justice, there will be no peace. If you want this movement to stop, it's time to get in the game and start doing the hard work to help it stop. If you want us to shut up, us social justice warriors, and we're so noisy, yada yada, maybe you should come help us fight. Because yes, justice, yes, peace. And we'll shut up, okay? We have demands. They're meetable demands, okay? I'm gonna take a quick break because I'm a little bit tired of ranting, but I will be right back with the rest of this developing story because a lot of things have changed over the last few days. So, thank you. I will be right back.